Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the Community Broadband Film Festival. It's not quite the Sundance Film Festival, but it's a festival in the sense that we're in a festive mood to celebrate a short film about Holland, Michigan taking charge of its digital future and building out a citywide and city-owned fiber network. I am Sean Gonsalves, Associate Director for Communications with the Community Broadband Networks Initiative here at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Today, I guess you could call me for the next 45 minutes, Sean Clint Eastwood for the next 45 minutes or so. I kind of like that. This is going to be the first of an occasional virtual live stream event where we screen short films on community broadband projects. And I am joined by Angela Bennick, the general manager of the Kitsap Public Utility District in the state of Washington, and our co-host today. She wears many hats, so let me turn it over to you, Angela, to say hello and a word or two about our co-sponsor for the event today.
Terrific. Thank you, Sean. And I'm honored to be here, excited to be on this inaugural red carpet for the short video. Next time, maybe I'll dress a little bit more fancy like you. American Association for Public Broadband. I had the great opportunity to work with other individuals across the nation. Highland, Illinois, Ridgefield, Connecticut, Utopia, and also Traverse City, Michigan, to get together and form this organization to advocate for public broadband. And a lot of the things that you're going to see in the video today really are repeated across the nation. These are the same challenges we have. And American Association for Public Broadband, or AAPB, because it's a mouthful, is here to support you in the steps that you want to take to bring broadband to communities. Thank you, Sean.
Excellent, excellent. Well, since we are on the red carpet, I did bring my popcorn I've got ready. I hope folks that are in the audience have got their snacks. I've got some Twix here as well. Anybody let me know if you want one. I'll email one to you. But what we're going to do now is bring out our guest onto our red carpet guest. And we're first up is the director of the Community Broadband Networks team, the maestro here, and the executive producer of this film, not Steven Spielberg, but Christopher Mitchell.
Thank you, Sean. And I realized if we had done a dry run of this, I would have realized that I need a Burt Reynolds hat. I would have for sure gone and got one that he was wearing in the late 70s or early 80s. Definitely would have done that. I wanted to say that, we've got to visit Holland in making this film. Holland is a really special place. I had known Pete, who you'll meet soon. I'd known Pete from some of the different conferences and saw the work that he was doing and the passion he was bringing to it. And I just realized what a special place Holland was with special people. And we wanted to make a film about this interesting community that has a long history of making smart public investments. We wanted to highlight some of the ones that they've done in broadband in particular. And we worked with Fred Johnson from the Media Working Group, who has been a great collaborator for many years with us, making short films about Sandy, Oregon, Ammon, Idaho, and Glasgow, Kentucky, which I think will be on future Fiber Film Festival type events. So, but let me give it back to you, and I'm excited to learn more about Holland.
Exactly. Me too. I'm excited to watch this. And we'll be given, towards the end of the program, we'll be giving you some information on where you can watch other films. I don't know if, it's other films. I was going to try to rank them, but we shouldn't because they're all terrific. So let's bring out our other red carpet guest. This gentleman works for the city of Holland. It is Ted Seiler, the director of utility services for the Holland Board of Public Works. And what I want to do with each of the red carpet guests is to ask you, Ted, and the others that come out. First of all, hello and welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Happy to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And so let's begin by just asking you real quick before we get into the film. We're about to watch this short film. It's about 9 minutes on the municipal fiber project there in your home city there in Michigan. And I wanted to ask each of you, though, what do you think people should know about Holland before they see this film?
Yeah, I think and folks in Michigan and the Midwest know Holland as this great tourist destination, great downtown, right on Lake Michigan, great weather, winter and summer activities. But I think what people don't know is maybe that West Michigan is really an industrial hub. And we own an electric utility as well. And 82% of our revenue is commercial and industrial. So it's a great place to live. But also, we want to do whatever we can to make it attractive for folks to come live here and participate in those businesses that are here. So that's probably something that a lot of people don't understand about Holland and West Michigan in general.
That's terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Ted. Well, we're going to let you go into the theater and get your seat and popcorn. And I see, look, walking up the red carpet now is Pete Hoswell, the superintendent of broadband services for Holland Board. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they love you. They love you.
The
Pete.
crowd is going wild. This is just amazing. My very first time on the red carpet. I'm so excited to be here, Sean. It's awesome.
Oh, it's so good to see you. And hopefully we can get some pictures or something later,
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
On the red carpet. So
or the after party, I'll see you at the after party.
There you go. There you go. The exclusive after party. Pete, tell us from your perspective, what are some other things that people ought to know about the city of Holland?
Yeah, Holland is it's a town of innovation, and it's self-sustained with folks that really love the city. We do amazing things here. As Ted mentioned, we're an industrial hub in a way. We support light manufacturing that supports mostly the automotive industry. So, Detroit automotive, well, West Michigan's supporting automotive. So, hey, that cool rear view mirror you have in your car that auto dims? That's a Holland, Michigan invention. Both the companies that build those are here in Holland and around Holland. So, we have office furniture, that desk you're sitting at. The office furniture hub of the world is here in West Michigan, with one of the largest, Hayworth, is being right here in the city limits building stuff. And guess what? They're all connected to the fiber that we're going to learn more about now. Beautiful,
beautiful. And you're also the city of, and maybe the mayor might hit on this a little bit, or we can talk about it a little bit later, but you guys do something really cool with snow out there when it does snow.
Yeah.
I wish we had here.
Yeah. Talk about innovation, back in the 80s when we were in the mallification of America and downtowns were drying up with business as malls got built. We had city leaders and city benefactors look at what can we do to make our downtown thrive. And they thought, well, if we could keep it open year round, because in the winter we get so much snow, nobody would go downtown. So we decided to build a snow melt system that connects our power plant up with waste heat coming from the power plant, waste hot water. It goes under the sidewalks in some of our streets to melt the snow and keep the downtown open and clear for folks in the winter. And I'll tell you, talk about innovation, which we'll talk about with the fiber. It changed our downtown to be absolutely thriving year round. They wrote a big article in Runner's World magazine about one of the best places to run is Holland, Michigan, because you can run on these beautiful clear streets in the middle of winter. So
I love that. I wish you could pipe some of that here. We don't get much snow anymore here in Cape Cod, where I live in Massachusetts, but man, it would have come in clutch so many times for me, including this winter. But that roar, that crowd, I hear it. It's the mayor of Holland is here on the red carpet. We'll see you in the theater. There he is. Mayor Nathan Box. Hello.
Good to see you. It's always hard to follow Pete. He is such a great spokesman for the city of Holland.
So, Mr. Mayor, tell us. You've been in office now. This is it your second or third term?
It's my third term. We do 2-year terms, so I've been mayor for 5 years now.
Terrific. So you've got a very interesting perspective, I'm sure, about the city of Holland. Tell us what you want people to know about Holland, and then we're going to get right into the film.
Absolutely. Holland, Michigan, obviously tied to the Dutch. We were founded by Dutch immigrants in 1847, but actually now a very, very diverse community. We are actually 23% Hispanic. We had lots of migrant workers come and realized that this is an incredibly wonderful place to live. We, as Ted and Pete said, an industrial community, but also known for tourism. We're home of the world famous Tulip Festival. We have 4.5 million tulip bulbs in the ground, ready to bloom in just about a month. Our community of 34,007 people are expecting 600,000 guests over the 10-day festival the first week of May.
Beautiful. Oh, man. Well, listen, I am super excited to get to this film. Angela, you ready?
I'm ready.
Mary, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Well, we're gonna go into the theater. I've got my popcorn here. I hope folks have got their snacks. So Angela, you should tell Jordan Pittman, our guy in the back on the ones and twos, to crank up the projector, and let's watch this.
Awesome. Let's let it roll.
We've been building community broadband in an open access model for 30 years. It's infrastructure, it's a community asset.
Without the reliability of a broadband network, our community's economy is at risk.
It's really difficult to see fiber any differently than I see electricity or water.
We had our own electric utility here in Holland in the 1800s, 3 years before the World's Fair in Chicago, that dealt with electrification in communities.
We built it to light the streets. It wasn't a year before the business owners downtown were like, we want to stay open later. Can you put these electric lights in our shops?
We made the decision to build out this fiber optic network to serve our own needs, and then leveraging that over the next 5 to 10 years by introducing dark fiber leases.
We didn't think about where the internet and broadband service would go. We knew it was important.
Any project has risk, and having solid light-speed infrastructure in the ground far outweighs those risks.
Our population is growing, and we need fiber and high-speed internet, and we need it now, so we're going to get it done.
We generate electricity. We also do water. We also do wastewater. And then about 30 years ago, our Board of Public Works needed a way to have the different facilities that they have throughout the community be able to talk to one another, communicate with one another as quickly as possible. So we started putting in a fiber broadband network initially for that communication. And what we realized almost right away is, hey, you know what? We have the opportunity to be able to share and have other folks jump onto this network as well. And so over the last 30 years, we have been slowly expanding that project.
City Council and our board would regularly ask the question, what is our prospect for growth long-term in our utility as it relates to fiber optic? And they would ask us, how can we make this ubiquitous? How can we make this available to everyone in our community?
We've had fiber for 30 years in this town. We know, we've operated it, we've built it, we see the value of that. We wanted to understand what it would be like to provide a service, provide a retail internet service. We picked downtown because it's very diverse. We have small businesses, we have restaurants, the coffee shops, we have people living upstairs in apartments, we have multi-tenant buildings.
So we saw people flocking to this coffee shop to try out the state-of-the-art service. It's kind of like it opened people's eyes to something that they did not know could exist. And once you try it, you're like, I have to have it.
There was opportunities for some of our key facilities in our community that actually wanted to be connected on more of an extended, local area network, essentially, be able to connect those buildings together. Our libraries, some healthcare facilities, some of our public safety areas, some other core city buildings. And again, the fiber optic infrastructure that we had invested in gave us a very strong position to be able to leverage that. We received very solid, strong response, a lot of positive feelings about the community taking a bigger role in determining its future as it relates to broadband. There was a realization at even those discussions that broadband was now essential. It wasn't just something that's nice to have. It was something that is a must-have for our community to thrive and to grow.
We're seeing so many more remote workers who actually they're not employed by companies here locally. And so for them to not be able to be connected to their home office as they're streaming video or live chatting also could potentially risk their quality of life and their ability to live and work in this community.
We did a survey in the community to see whether or not people were interested in it, and we got overwhelming support from people saying we would really like to have this. But then we also asked the questions of, well, are you willing to pay for it? What would you be willing to pay for it? And we were in the 60-70% range of people who are saying, yes, we would really like this. Yes, we are willing to pay the cost that were anticipated for it. And we needed to put it on as a ballot proposal in order to be able to pay for it, because we just simply don't have the dollars in the city coffers right now to be able to do it.
And when we look at the actual cost of the tax, especially for folks who are planning to partake in the service of the broadband service, it really just isn't that much. And by the time all things are totaled up, you're going to end up probably paying about the same or maybe even a little bit less for a much faster and more reliable service.
What if you don't need it? And I said, well, the wonderful thing about roads is that they go everywhere. You know, there are streets in this town that I don't actually use, but I get a benefit from the fact that they're there because other people are able to use those. And someday I may be able to need to go there, or I may live there at some point.
So now this takes a vote, and the people have to decide to tax themselves, and they need to know what you're talking about. Broadband is a complex subject. So we engaged in a full community-based decision-making process where we engaged with the community through listening tours, through community meetings, through ultimately a survey of the community, to ask them, to first of all inform them on what the opportunity is.
We had a millage vote, and we're able to pass that even in the face of some pretty stiff opposition from some political action groups that were trying to prevent it from happening. We were able to get it across the line, and I have not heard a single person yet say that they're not excited about that prospect. And frankly, the comments I get as mayor is, how quickly are you going to get it to my house?
When our millage vote was announced, we didn't have a whole lot of time, I think 3 to 4 months before it was going to be on the ballot. So it was a lot of work to just educate the community on what was happening, when it was happening, and that they needed to get out and actually vote. Toward the end of the campaign, the last month of the campaign, really, we got hit with a ton of mailers and letters to the editor that were against it. And it wasn't until a few weeks before the election we could find out that that was all funded by the telecom companies. As I started arguing with people on Facebook, I was looking at one woman from Grand Rapids who I couldn't figure out why she was so interested in this topic. I clicked on her profile and saw she was standing with a guy that I recognized very clearly as the local Comcast public policy rep. When I called her out on that, she quickly attacked me, but then deleted her comment and was quiet after that.
The fiber will roll out in phases throughout town, so it will start in one neighborhood and move to the next neighborhood, and the next neighborhood as those crews go through town. We will build to where the most interest is first.
One thing that really encourages me about the BPW's approach is the fact that they're encouraging and building an open access network so that if these ISPs want to participate and use that infrastructure, they can. It's not off limits to them. And so while it does create another choice and encourage competition and likely pushes down costs, it doesn't prohibit anyone from participating in the system and providing a good or a service that people can engage with.
It's about the utility, but I think it's also about the ability to be able to control our destiny. And we're actually saying that exact same thing to the big providers. We're saying we'll build it so you don't have to. It wouldn't make any sense in the world. As a matter of fact, we would all think it was crazy if UPS said we're going to create our own system of roads.
It's a local utility. And in the same way that we can count on them for reliability and service with power or with water, and in the same way that we can count on having a service representative that's from our community and lives here and has a stake here, we have that for our internet service as well.
We'll be wowed. Guaranteed we will be wowed. And Holland will have the infrastructure in place because of the work we've been doing today and for the past 30 years, it's going to really make a difference. Not only is it making a difference today, but it's going to make a difference into the future. It's just awesome.
I'm on the phone with Netflix. Hold on, they called me just a minute. We'll consider that. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, Netflix is already beating down our doors. Good job all around. It's just I just get excited to hear about communities that really take on these challenges and decide to solve the challenges themselves. So Angela, why don't we bring back all of our guests out of the studio back into the red carpet ante room and have a bit of Q&A with our guest. Go ahead.
Excellent.
Angela.
Yeah, Sean, I have to second that. It is so great to hear the stories and to hear the experience that these gentlemen bring to just the public as to what they've gone through to bring this in. So appreciate the time that you put into this and also sharing your story. I've got a question though. Mayor Box.
Mm-hmm.
Most cities are just hoping the incumbents will step up, whether that's the telephone provider, the cable provider, the wireless provider, but they'll step up and they'll take care of all the residential and business needs. Why not just rely on them?
Yeah, for us, it was a matter of a number of different things: choice, freedom, cost, reliability, and service. And I'm gonna steal a little bit of Ted and Pete's thunder, and I'm gonna tell you the motto of our Board of Public Works: local, reliable, efficient, and essential. We have the highest customer service rating for our BPW utilities of anywhere you can possibly imagine. Our folks love our BPW. And the one thing that our people hate more than anything is their cable service providers. They cannot wait to get out of their contract with their cable service providers. And so when we were looking at putting this together, we knew that we could do it. We knew that people wanted it. And frankly, one of the sales pitches that I was making as mayor to the people of the city of Holland was, and what I got really lucky with, frankly, too, was about 6 months or so before we started this process, the BPW lowered everyone's electric rates across the board by 10%. So, and who does that? What utility lowers rates by 10%? So I was able to go out to the public and say, wouldn't you like to get your internet from the same people who just lowered your electric rates by 10%? And who provides you the snowmelt system and the incredible reliability that you have. So that's one of the reasons why we do it. And the other reason why we're doing it and we're not leaving it up to them is that customer service piece. The challenge that I've given to Pete and his team is I want broadband to be as simple and easy to install and maintain in your home or your apartment or your business as electricity is, as water is, as wastewater is. I want when our residents move in that they call the BPW and it just works. And frankly, when I moved about 6 months ago, I called the BPW and I was moving into a place that had fiber broadband, and I called and the guy showed up and he walked into the utility room in my condo. And about 2 minutes later, he walked out and I said, "Oh, did you forget something in the truck?" And he goes, "No, I'm done." And that was it.
Love it.
It was it. So that's the reason why we're not leaving it up to them, is because we've got control of our own destiny and we can provide such a high level of customer service for our residents at, frankly, a much lower cost. I'm not only the mayor, I'm a small business owner. My current cost at my one-man law office for 400 megabits down is $250 a month. When fiber broadband, and Pete, the crew was in front of my office yesterday. When fiber broadband gets to my office, I will get 2 gigabits for $45 a month.
Yeah.
Five times the speed for 1/5 the cost. That's why we're doing it.
Wow.
I love it. You're well, not only preaching to the choir, but also really talking about, I mean, you as a city are focused on serving your residents. And I just appreciate so much taking that step.
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about they just want it to work. We can sometimes get caught up in the technology and everything, but at the end of the day, the end user wants it to work. They want it to be reliable, and it doesn't hurt when you're talking about 2 gigs for $45 a month. Man, am I jealous? Oh my goodness. So let's bring Pete in. I got a question for you, Pete. So since we did since Chris and Fred and you all put together this film, what's happened since you've talked to us on camera? Where are you now? Have you started building, or have you lit up anybody for service? Where's the city of Holland now with the network?
Yeah, sure. We've been in the middle of the project, working hard all through the winter. I wish I had snow melt everywhere the fiber goes, but we don't. So we've been fighting a lot of heavy snow this winter, building fiber throughout the city, like I say in the film. Neighborhood by neighborhood, as we like to call them, Fiberhood by Fiberhood. And the city is half built out in passing. So a passings is fiber going by somebody's home. We have half of our passings done. Geographically, that's about a third of the fiber that we'll be building, third of the city. As we go, the train moves on, and as the fiber passing builders move through, then our fiber fulfillment guys that build the fiber from the pole or from underground into the house and light up service, those guys are right behind them. We have 5 of our Fiberhoods are up and running, and we have over 1,000 customers already. So things are awesome, and they're barreling forward. I like to talk to my team about Sisyphus, pushing the boulder up the hill. That's us right now. It's a lot of work. Or the hockey stick. We're in that heavy workload right now, but we're getting there. So very exciting.
Awesome. Well, I think we should get to some more nuts and bolts here and bring Ted in. Ted, when you look at this, many cities and towns are interested in doing what you're doing, but balk at the price. So can you give us some context on how the Holland Board of Public Works thought about financing, and then how you actually, invested and did those things to fund this project?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably most folks in this screening know that this can be a really capital intensive effort to build a new fiber internet service throughout a whole city. So the BPW, we're used to, hey, you want electric, you want water, you want wastewater, and you're in the city limits, you have to come to us. So we're a monopoly on those utilities. We don't have a lot of risk involved when we go service a customer. That's different on a competitive service like fiber internet, where we have other incumbents involved and people have a choice. And that's okay, because one of the big things we've always said is, you're going to save money whether you take our service or you don't, because if your incumbent is going to have to try to be competitive with us to maintain customers. So the whole city's going to save money on this service. So the big thing that had to happen, and the way we looked at it, and we had the general manager of the BPW, Dave Koster, and the city manager, Keith Van Beek, formed a committee pre-COVID to really look at what's the best way to do this. And really from a risk perspective, it really required that we have to get buy-in from the folks in the city. Getting buy-in was a vote to actually have a millage to pay for the passings network, which is probably going to be around $25 million when we're all said and done. So that millage over the next 20 years will help pay off that bond that we took out, that will pass every property in the city of Holland and allow folks to get service. So once you de-risk that part, that $45 for 2 gig service, now you have our O&M, we have efficiency of scale because we have customer service for all of our other utilities. We did have to hire a couple more customer service reps. expanded Pete's department to get this all done. We've hired a outside firm to help us with the initial glut of drop construction, which is paid by the service cost. So really, we did a really detailed pro forma, and that's the model that really worked for us.
Awesome. I think, ultimately the residents end up paying for this, but I think a lot of times communities underestimate how their community values this. And I think it was said in the video very clearly that broadband's considered essential. And when you go out to vote and you get the turnaround that you see, your public is valuing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can back you up on that, Angela. Vince, who's in the film, is a local business owner. He lived in a township outside of downtown, and they do media production. So they're moving videos around, and they needed a lot of fast and reliable bandwidth. He packed up and moved into the city, into our pilot project, because he had to have that fiber to run his business. We've had companies downtown that their lease is up and they're looking for a new place to move their company. They're like, well, it has to be downtown because the fiber is absolutely essential to us being able to conduct our business. So amazing. And that's only the beginning of the stories of fiber and how it's going to change our town and change the world for the better, I say.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Wow. It's there's so many benefits of municipal broadband that are not captured on the balance sheet. But and it reminds me, Ted, as when you were talking about the financing, that we should mention that ILSR and AAPB recently did a webinar together that focused on municipal broadband financing. So if folks that have seen this screening might be interested in that, you can find that in its entirety at the ILSR YouTube channel. So let me pick on Pete again. I've seen a bunch of surveys, but I think most of us know that most Americans consider broadband to be a utility, like roads, water, or electricity. Can you tell us why it made sense for broadband to be an extension of the city's utility services?
Yeah, and I think we've already hit about a couple times. Is we're local. We live in this town. I live downtown and get the service, but I also work for the company. My commute's 3 minutes away. We have customers that come into our customer service every month to pay their bills because they like our customer service people. They know them by name, and they actually come in and pay with their paper check every month. We are a trusted partner in our community, 100%. We're here to make our mission is to make our community thrive. And that's what we do every day here. Profit is not part of our model. Revenues to pay for those things that we do for our community is. And I think people are behind that. Fiber. We've had fiber for 30 years here. City Council saw that as a resource and an asset and really challenged us to find ways to make it available to everybody in the community, which is what got us to where we are today. That's a handshake between a utility service provider and the community that has a need that just cannot be beat with a local organization like a municipal public utility, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So much. All right, I've got an interesting question for actually all of you, because I think depending on the chair you sit in, the answer to this can be very different. What have been the most challenging aspects of getting this project moving forward?
Yeah, I can kick that one off. I think really what happened when the vote happened and we were successful, it's kind of like the dog that caught the car a little bit, so we've been talking about this. In a very short time, we put out a request for proposals for an owner's engineer, and we hired an owner's engineer. then we created a request for proposal for a bunch of materials, because at the time, and this was 2022, there was a lot of supply chain issues. We were trying to make sure that we could actually proceed with construction. So we bought half the materials we thought we might need prior to getting a firm on board to build the network, just so we didn't slow things down. So then in the middle of that, we created an RFP to go out and hire in a construction and engineering firm, and then ran that process and got EX Squared on board for engineering construction. So that was all in about 9 months. We did all those activities. So it's it's a lot of work now, but I think if Pete and I reflect back on all that work that it took to get to that point, to where we had someone on board to start working on design, that was kind of a mad rush, and it was pretty impressive on all the work we got done in that short amount of time.
That's a lot of hurdles in a very short time, just to even think of the ordering of materials and creating a laydown yard, right, to store it all. That's right. All huge. Mayor Box, what about you? What do you think your biggest challenge or hurdle was?
One of my favorite things about my job is that I've got people like Ted and Pete that once we get things across the line, I know that they're just going to take care of all of that stuff. As Ted was saying that, I remember all of that, but I haven't worried about any of that stuff since we got it across the line. For me, it was the first part. I was elected mayor 4 months before COVID hit. And literally the last group meeting I had in person was a meeting about fiber broadband. And the decision that we made at that meeting was, we know how to do this. We think we've figured out how we're going to fund this. The only challenge that we think that we have at this point is, how do we convince people that they need it? How are we going to convince people that broadband is something that they're really going to need in their lives? And believe it or not, COVID kind of answered that question for us. That people all of a sudden went, oh my goodness, we really need this thing desperately. And so we got across that. But then we actually had a pretty big legal challenge that we had to make sure that we dealt with. The state of Michigan has a law called the Metro Act. And the Metro Act says that municipalities cannot use tax dollars to create a communications network. Let me repeat that. Municipalities cannot use tax dollars to create a communications network. We passed a millage to build out our fiber broadband network. How did we do that? Well, one, we weren't creating one, we were expanding one. Our broadband network existed prior to the Metro Act. We believe that the Metro Act applied to us, but we were exempt from it. So we have the ability to do some things that we believe other communities in the state of Michigan don't have the ability to do. But we are still concerned that the big service providers may still come after us. And that was a real concern for us from a legal perspective of whether we were going to see that challenge or not.
Yeah. Those are some great points. And, it's something that we track and follow pretty carefully, just the number of states that have these, anti-municipal broadband barriers and hurdles, which, let's face it, they were created to protect the monopolies that nobody loves from competition.
Yes.
Now, I know we've got just a few minutes left, and I do want to come back to the mayor on a question, but just before I do that, it occurred to me that it's one thing that's important, and I think any one of you can speak to, which is that, when we talk about, the capital, the intensive project, et cetera, and the cost of building these networks, it's often looked at without considering some of the other contexts. Can you talk about kind of the cost of this infrastructure as in comparison, just for a little bit of context and just really quick, in comparison to some other infrastructure that cities and communities build all the time, roads, schools, et cetera, water systems?
Yeah. So Ted, $25 million. We've got a $34 million anaerobic digester. We just spent $16 million on building a new fire station and refurbing another fire station. We just spent $20 million on about 3 blocks of roadway and a new ice skating rink. So we're spending all of this. We spent, I believe, $72 million on infrastructure projects last fiscal year alone. And part of that was broadband. Part of that was anaerobic digester and some of the other projects that I mentioned. It's a big lift, but it's a community asset. We're going to have this once it's built. We've got it, and these guys assure me we're going to have it for many, many years to come.
That's right.
Yeah, if that fiber passing network's a 50-year asset, which we believe it is, and probably longer, in 20 years it's going to be paid off. Your millage rate's probably going to go down over those 20 years as the taxable value of the city goes up. So now you're home free. We think from a cash flow perspective, if we get the take rate that we do, maybe in 10 years we can start lowering rates instead of increasing them, because we're not for profit. We don't want to keep folks' money outside of depreciation to fix and repair the network going forward that we need. We don't have shareholders, we have community members, and it's certainly going to remain affordable.
Well said. And it's not a pipe dream. I mean, we've seen other networks, lower their prices, doing well. Fairlawn gig in Ohio, not too far from you guys, is an example of that. So let me, as we've got just a couple of minutes left here, I'd like to throw one more question out to the mayor, and other folks are, feel free to elaborate. But so the city built its snow melt system, but you really couldn't anticipate all of the benefits that it would bring. Like keeping the salt, for example, used to melt the snow out of the lake. Now, when it comes to internet access, I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people think of it in terms of just email or social media or streaming movies or shopping online. But can you talk about some of the other impacts that having a ubiquitous citywide network brings to a community?
Absolutely. And Pete touched on it a little bit with Vince Boilo. One of the things that happened when COVID hit is everybody went home and started working. And I immediately thought to myself, people are going to stay home, and people are all of a sudden now going to be able to work from wherever they want to work. And as a community, if we want to survive as our community of 35,000 people on the shores of Lake Michigan that gets 75 inches of snow every single year, we need to make sure that we are as attractive as possible. We need to be a community of choice. And if we want to attract the Vince Boilos of the world, we need to have high-speed fiber broadband. And so for me, that was one aspect of this whole piece of creating a community of choice for folks. It also has all kinds of educational opportunities for our schools. We are leasing dark fiber as part of this process as well. And I'm sure Ted and Pete can talk way more intelligently about those opportunities that are out there. But also, we've touched on this, and I don't know, and Ted and Pete may know this more than I do, the fact that we are building this as an open network. We have said to the service providers, we're going to build it so you don't have to. And I think that that's a real model for communities moving forward, so that they've got the opportunity to be able to take advantage of this. It's a community asset that ultimately provides benefit for this community. One of the complaints that I get from folks as mayor is that their tax bills go up. Their property tax bills go up. And what I remind them of is we have not raised the property tax rate in the city of Holland for 12 years. It has remained static for 12 years. So when I'm feeling snarky and somebody complains about their tax bill going up, I look at them and I say, you're welcome. What that means is we are doing our job well. We are creating a community where people want to live, where property values are going up because demand to live in this community is going up. And broadband is just one piece of that whole picture that makes this a more attractive place for people to live, which means this community is going to thrive, not only for the people who live here, but for the businesses that are here for the long term. That's one piece that we absolutely have to have for the future.
Thank you. Angela, we've got about a minute or two left. Any final thoughts or a quick question you want to throw out there before we wrap up? I wanted to mention a few things before we close, but
yeah, I would just say one of the things that was touched on in the movie and then touched on here with the group as well is how much you engaged with your community. And I know we found that was integral to our success here on the opposite side of the nation. And I just want to encourage everyone to keep doing that. And then also, if you do want to hear more about what other public entities are doing, join us at Broadband Communities. AAPB is doing a pre-session there. So that'll be a good time on the first day of the event.
That's right. That's right. And that's in Houston again this year, correct?
That is, yes.
That's right. That's right. Terrific. Well, listen, I want to thank each of our guests, Mayor, Ted, Pete, Angela. It's been terrific. This is, like, as I said earlier, this is going to be the first of several community broadband short film screenings that we'd like to do. You can stay tuned for more and joining our newsletter at communitynetworks.org. And also be sure to check out our library of films at fiberfilmfestival.com.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.